Silent Separation by Guman, Chapter 12.1. As it turns out, Mushan went to work with red eyes. Xiaohun carefully looked at her eyes and asked in a grieving tone, "Have you broken up with your boyfriend?" Mushan replied in a low voice to match her grieving tone, "Comrade Xiaohun, do you want to treat beef rice to comfort a heartbroken colleague?" Xiaohun thought for a while and then replied, "Then you better not break up with your boyfriend." Colleague Bei bought a newspaper with Ying on the cover. Mushan saw the newspaper on his desk, so she conveniently brought it over to her desk to read. The long article chronicled his life with praises and pomposity. True to a tabloid newspaper's distinguishing the features, there was gossip and speculation about Yinghun's wife. Mushan put down the newspaper and stared blankly for a long time. She did not know many people in the U.S. She was closest to Sister Zhen, but they lost contact after she returned to China. The other person was Yinhun. In actuality, in regard to Yinhun, Mushan only felt gratitude because he had helped her a lot. That time when he was drunk, he did not cross the line and hurt her. After hesitating for a while, Mushan turned on her computer and went to the SOSO Meld website, then her not often used mailbox to look for Yinghun's email address. After changing what she wrote several times, only one sentence remained in the end. "Yinhun, what happened last night at the hotel lobby? Thank you." A few minutes after sending the email, her inbox had an alert for new mail. Mushan refreshed the screen and clicked to open the email. Two simple words appeared like from a stranger. Mushan's fingers stilled on the keyboard. Not knowing what to say, she remembered the gossip she heard from the students in C University and then quickly replied, "Yinhun, have you met her again now that you are back in China? Maybe you still have a chance." A reply did not come forth in a long time. Mushan regretted it. Maybe she overstepped herself, as everyone has an untouchable part in the heart. Maybe that girl was his deepest wound. That night, Mushan and Yichen talked about what happened. Yichen frowned at her and said two words, "Very slow." And then he added, "Thank goodness you are slow." Mushan did not understand. More than 1 month later, when Mushan checked her mailbox on a regular basis, she saw Yinghun's reply. Looking at the date, it was sent 2 days ago. Mushan opened the email. The subject line was left empty with just a few sentences on the body. "Not everyone can wait so long in loneliness like he, Yichen. Mushan, I have a change of heart. P.S. Wish you an early Merry Christmas." Mushan stared blankly on the screen. Just a few lines. Why did it take so long to reply? Maybe the sender changed the message over and over and thought about it for a long time before sending it. In that moment, Mushan felt she was beginning to understand something, but the idea only flashed quickly before the intuition disappeared. She moved the mouse to delete the option, hesitated for a moment, and moved away. Finally, she logged out of her mailbox. Maybe she would never use this mailbox again. That message would lay quietly online at a corner. No one would open it, yet it would never disappear. Autumn quickly faded with the arrival of the chilly winter. Under the influence of Xiaohun, Mushan was hooked on knitting scarves. Such a pity, Mushan always made mistakes, sometimes knitting too tightly and sometimes knitting too loosely. Finally, her first project was done. She felt excited like a child who just accomplished an amazing feat and wanted to brag to its mother. Yichen was extremely grateful, but he refused to wear it on his neck when going out. On Christmas night, Yichen invited Yimei and her boyfriend Jiansu to have dinner together. Jiansu was Yimei's boss, a steady man with a sense of humor. This was Yichen's first time meeting him. After dinner, they went outside and discovered it had started snowing. In the street, young people and children jumped and cheered for the arrival of the first snow in A City. Mushan and Yimei stood side by side on the walkway to wait for Yichen and Jiansu, who went to get their cars. Yimei smilingly said, "Initially, I planned to marry next year and invited you to be my bridesmaid, but who knows Yichen couldn't wait. However, you can't blame him because he probably has endured for a long time," Yimei said ambiguously as she winked at Mushan. Mushan blushed, not knowing when Yimei became so outspoken. Yimei laughed, turned her head, and saw Junsu wave at her opposite the road. Hence, she told Mushan, "I can't accompany you to wait because I have to leave first." "All right," Mushan nodded. Yimei walked a few steps and stopped, but she did not turn around. "The two of you must be very happy," Yimei whispered, her voice barely audible. "For me." Mushan was stunned for words. Yimei has already run and crossed the street, not looking back. Yichen returned to see Mushan standing in a daze, staring at her toes. "Yimei has left already?" "Yes." Mushan looked up but did not see the cars. "It's snowing. Let's walk home." "Oh." Seeing her lackluster reaction, Yichen was somewhat surprised. He thought she would be jumping excitedly because of the snow. Mushan lowered her head and walked absent-mindedly. She was close to bumping into a street light, but a pair of big hands pulled her back. "What are you thinking about? Do you want to write a self-reflection report again?" Yichen frowned. Mushan's mind slowly returned to reality. She innocently looked up to see his familiar face mixed with a bit of anger. Suddenly, she wanted to hold him. Her hands involuntarily sneaked into his coat and hugged him. "Yichen?" Started by her sudden action, Yichen asked softly, "Are you all right?" The head that buried in his embrace kept on shaking slightly, her voice muffled. "I'm all right." Yichen wanted to loosen her arms to see what was wrong with her, but Mushan refused to let go and hold on tighter. "Mushan," Yichen said helplessly, not knowing why she was so suddenly clingy. "You're too big now to act like a spoiled child. People will laugh at us." Yichen lowered his head to whisper in her ears. "Nonsense! How could she be like a spoiled child?" "Well, I'm just checking to see if this coat I bought is warm." Just leave her be. Yichen has no way out but to let her hold onto him. He smiled wearily at the ambiguous or envious look from the people walking by. Under the snowy night on a crowded street for the first time, she felt Christmas was a holiday worth celebrating. This year's Lunar New Year came early. Not long after Christmas, the Lunar New Year arrived in the blink of an eye. Naturally, they have to go back to Y City to celebrate Lunar New Year. Y City is not far from A City, about a little more than 3-hour drive, but the roads were crowded because of the holiday. Yichen and Mushan departed early in the morning, but actually arrived in Y City at a little bit more than 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Feeling that the person next to him was quiet for a long time, Yichen turned his head to take a look. From yesterday, Mushan has been feeling tense, but why she felt better when she arrived in Y City. Mushan looked out at the car window in a daze, not aware of Yichen staring at her. Yichen looked at his wife with an indescribable emotion, paused for a moment, and suddenly called out, "Mushan?" "Huh?" Mushan reacted after a while, turned around and asked, "What? Do you know how to play mahjong?" "Play mahjong?" Mushan thought she heard wrongly. "Auntie loves to play mahjong, so if you don't know how, she'll probably be very disappointed." Yichen's tone was mild and light, but the words were deliberately made to sound serious. Mushan was distracted. The thought of not going, which has been circling in her head just now, flew away, leaving only the word mahjong. "What to do? I don't really know how to play." Mushan was very upset. "Why didn't you tell me earlier so that I can practice?" "You still have a lot of time to practice," Yichen said with a laugh, and then parked the car. "Mushan, we have arrived." How many years had Mushan not been a part of such a lively Lunar New Year celebration? Snow fell outside the window, and the sound of the firecrackers can be heard continuously. The whole family sat together to eat Lunar New Year's Eve family dinner and to listen to the elderly nagging. "The older both of you are, the less final. One has a boyfriend already but did not tell mom, and one simply got married without saying anything." Yimei made a face at Yichen. Mom, you complained the entire afternoon. It's not often the kids come back, so let them enjoy their meal. Don't keep on nagging non-stop, Mr. He said. I think you're the one to find me irritating. Mrs. He turned to talk to Mr. He. Mr. He, who has always been afraid of his wife, immediately appeared uncomfortable. Jianzu could not understand the dialect, so he kept on asking Yimei to translate. Yimei felt Vax, a big man, unexpectedly started to act shamelessly like a kid. Mushan smiled while listening. She was used to spending Lunar New Year by herself abroad. Being a part of a warm family atmosphere such as this, she even felt afraid to talk, afraid that this magical atmosphere might disappear. After the meal, Mrs. He really organized the family to play mahjong. Yichen sneaked upstairs to the study room, and Yimei volunteered to wash the dishes. In the end, Mushan, the prospective son-in-law, and Mr. He, who has never dared to oppose his wife, joined the game according to Mrs. He's wish. Mrs. He is an experienced player for several decades with profound skills. Mr. He, who has been practicing for several decades with his wife, is naturally also not weak. Yimei's boyfriend is a businessman, so he is naturally good at calculating. The only pathetic person was Mushan, since she only remembered how to play slightly because she had lived abroad for the past couple of years. The game barely started, but she was already defeated soundly. Yichen came out of the study and could not believe his eyes. It's not even an hour, but you lost so much already. Mushan was very embarrassed and stuttered, It's just bad luck. Yichen patted her on the shoulder and told her to stand up. Leave it to me. Now the players were evenly matched. Mushan sat on the side and looked on as the game became more interesting. It was already 1 o'clock in the morning, yet she still refused to go to bed. Yichen told her twice, but in vain. Finally, he glared at her. Only then did Mushan go to sleep. During the night, half asleep, half awake, Mushan heard the door open, so she switched on the table lamp. Finished already? Did you win or lose? Yichen looked tired when he pulled back the quilt and got into bed. Only Auntie lost. Mushan glared at him. 3 big men so shameless to take advantage of a woman. The He family has a rule, which is there are no concessions at the mahjong table. Also, if Auntie doesn't lose completely, she won't stop. Yichen pulled her into his arms. Quickly go to sleep. I'm exhausted, and it's all because of your fault. Mushan immediately felt extremely ashamed. Normally, he was very busy working. When he returned home to celebrate the Lunar New Year holiday, he still could not rest because of her. Truly pitiful. 'Tis she obediently lay in his arms to sleep, no longer making any noises to disrupt him. After quite a while, she felt his warm lips on the back of her neck. Mushan panted, Aren't you very tired? Yes, Yichen's voice was vague. I still can be a little bit more tired. In the morning, on the first day of the Lunar New Year, Mushan woke up at a bit past 7. As she sat up and began to dress, Yichen pulled her back under the quilt. What are you doing getting up so early? Yichen asked sleepily. I have to make breakfast. Let me go. Mushan tried hard to loosen his grip on her waist, but Yichen did not even bother to move his fingers. Hence, Mushan was annoyed and gave up. Yichen, stay in bed with me for a bit more. Really? Mushan muttered. Yichen, you're a little strange today. Yichen's body became stiff and kept quiet for a few seconds. His voice sounded a bit unnatural. Strange how? You're acting like a kid, Mushan complained. Yichen's finger relaxed slightly. Be quiet, go to sleep. There were no voices outside, so it appeared no one had gotten up yet. 'Tis Mushan obeyed him, since she could not escape from his embrace anyway. Then I'll sleep a little bit more. However, it was uncomfortable to sleep like that. Closing her eyes for barely a minute, Mushan became restless. She wanted to lift her head out of Yichen's arms. How could a girl sleep like this? Yichen opened his eyes. Can you stop moving around? Mushan frowned before she wanted to lay her head on a pillow, as it is softer and more comfortable. Yichen, if I sleep this way, your arms will be numb. She will really give thoughts for his sake. The outcome of releasing her to sleep alone will probably be catching a cold together. Hence, it was best to hold her as tightly as possible so he can sleep at ease. Yichen simply pretended not to hear her and closed his eyes to sleep. Mosheng glared at him for a long time, but she still could not sleep. She looked around the room to finally rest her eyes on the handsome face next to her. Yichen is truly handsome. Quietly kissing him on his cheek, Mosheng finally began to feel a little sleepy, her mind hazily thinking she still has to get up early.